This weekend, Ryan is learning the culinary arts, Andy visits the island, and we go on a rodent escapade. I'm Ryan,
I'm Andy.
and this is Weekend Rental, episode 182. Well, everybody, welcome back to another episode. Andy, how have you been?
Oh, just amazing, Ryan.
Yeah, well, we got through 4th of July.
Right.
And nothing else horrific or off-putting happened in this country in that time, so we don't need to dwell on any of that. How was the 4th? America.
Even the 4th was kind of a downer. It rained all day.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of sucked.
Yeah, wild weather. We had rain during the day. I think we had a little bit of window where we did some fireworks illegally in our backyard, and then the rain came back, and it's been just such a weird summer for that. What kind of blew my mind though was there were way more people lighting off fireworks in town than previous years. I literally had some people at the intersection out here, full on mortars, lighting them off in the street. We live a block from a cop. So I was like, that's a bad choice, but they were going for it.
Wow. Yeah. When you're that close too, you're feeling it in all the windows and everything, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Apparently there were record numbers of fires and injuries this year from fireworks. They were urging citizens not to light them off. We just stuck to the fountains and stuff that really can't get out of hand, except for we bought what I thought were large tops. Well, they started out like that, and then they just all of a sudden at the end rocket 80 feet into the air. And it just was oh, I didn't see that coming. But luckily they landed in our yard, so it was okay.
Huh. Yeah, that's pretty great.
You guys got lots of space to light them off though out there at least. Yeah,
but I know I didn't get over there to the North Dakota side where you get the good stuff.
That's true. Yeah, they unbanned bottle rockets again, which I didn't realize, but
oh, I didn't know that either.
At least I think I saw some, so
okay. Huh.
Yeah,
there was a lot around us too, just around the lakes and stuff, but
I'm sure. It's funny because I went to the Minnesota side to buy my fireworks because I was like, well, I can just buy them at Menards and I'll get 11% off. So that's what I did. So,
oh yeah,
nothing too exciting, but it was still nothing botching or buying that stuff and just literally watching your kids burn your money in front of you.
Right.
Because did you have parents that were all in on fireworks? Because mine were not. It was basically me saving my money that I worked on odd jobs to get it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, if it was kind of the lame stuff, sparklers and all that stuff, which was whatever. Every once in a while, cousins or something would have some cooler stuff if you were over there or with them during the 4th.
Nice.
But other than that, not too much.
Yeah, I had my parents never did it, but I had the one uncle who was super into it every year. So when we did the family get-togethers, he always had the good stuff. But usually it was me buying things, and I would pretty much only buy bottle rockets up until the 5th, and then everything went half off, and then I would spend all my money on whatever was left. So
yep.
It was great.
Yep. I think when we got these those water balloons that you just fill in, you get fill them in 100 at a time now,
Yep.
And then the kids just all throw them pretty much and they're all gone in about a minute and a half, and you just have a bunch of stuff laying around your yard. That's where I was oh, this is how fireworks would go, so I'm probably not going to invest too heavy in fireworks unless I'm the one controlling it all,
Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, those balloon things are a blessing and a curse. Genius idea, but it's just they're over it in 5 seconds because they can just whip them all. They don't sit there for hours like we did and hoping it didn't break. And
we bought these. Have you seen these ones that are magnetic? They split in half and then they're held together by a magnet. They're kind of like a rubber on them.
So okay. I've seen
hold water.
Knockoff. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are really awesome because you can just fill them full of water, throw them. The only problem is like as a parent, they're the greatest thing because they're just reusable and they're done and they don't make a huge mess. As a kid who is probably wanting to get somebody wet, I feel like they're not as good because they kind of like bounce off of them first and then they crack open. So it's like you're not
Sure.
getting the full splash. So I think the scientists need to get back in the lab on those things.
Doesn't it hurt when you get hit with like a magnet too? Or is it not
Oh,
that heavy
maybe.
duty of a magnet?
No, it's just little ones in the lids or whatever.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've seen like a knockoff version of that my sister-in-law got that did not have magnets, and they just like completely didn't work at all. They were just trash.
Oh, really?
You remember? I don't think they make it anymore. We got them on clearance because I think they were a failure. But we got some of those balloon things like you were talking about, but they were rotten egg scent ones. They had like a powder in them.
Oh my
So
gosh.
you'd get wet and then you would just reek. They were the worst.
Oh.
But my wife insisted on buying them for my son, so she had like 3 packs of these like clearanced out stink bombs. It was pretty rough.
That's like buying a school prank in a bag, pretty much. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was an interesting design choice. I can see why it's not around anymore.
Yeah. So my son turned 5 recently, and he got a fart gun.
Oh.
This is a Despicable Me minion fart gun or something, but
Okay.
I'm not sure how it exactly works. There's like some liquid that you put in the bottom, and then it fogs it up inside the gun when you turn it on. It looks like there's like some sort of electrical wire, and it just like instantly fogs it up.
And it stinks?
And then there's like a air, a shooter that you can shoot air out and blows the ring like a smoke ring. And yeah, it's kind of, it doesn't smell like a fart, but it smells not great.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's currently banned from inside the house because it gets pretty bad in here.
That's for grandma and grandpa's side of the house, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. But the things that for a while there, I thought they kind of got rid of all like the gross toys, but they're still there if you look, I guess.
Nice. That sounds pretty sweet, actually. Just the smoke ring aspect seems neat.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's weird. I mean, it looks like you're like a badass vape pen. Maybe that's what it is.
That's the hook, is they're trying to get kids into vaping. So,
yeah,
that's a problem. Not good. Well, I had an update on my wonderful story from our last podcast because I was explaining my camping trip and that weird like wet spot in the tent and the mystery of how did it get wet. Well, I solved that mystery since the last time. Apparently, it was me, and I did sleepwalk because it happened again the week after we recorded our last episode. My wife came out into our living room at about, well, it had been Friday night into Saturday, so about 2 a.m. on Saturday morning, and I was just standing there, dick out, pissing on our rug, like sleepwalking. Like she woke me, like I came to eventually realizing what was happening, but I was so confused and couldn't for the life of me understand why she was mad at me. And I guess when she asked me what I was doing, my response was, I'm watering the dog. And I'm like, okay. But none of it makes any sense because I had to sleepwalk further into the house than it would take me to just get to the bathroom. So yeah, I don't know why the sleepwalking thing happened. I hope it doesn't continue because I'm ruining rugs. But yeah, it was quite the event. So definitely me both times. I'm gonna guess. So it seems like sleepwalking and peeing confirmed, which is a weird habit to grow into in your 40s when it's not something you've done as a child. But it's good.
Have you watched like The Big Lebowski lately, where you were like,
the rug really tied the room together?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a mess. So then, yeah, I got to mop that up, and then now my wife makes fun of me horribly. So, but yeah, it was trippy. Like being woken up like out of a sleepwalking state. It was so confusing for a number of reasons. I mean,
oh yeah,
even if I hadn't been standing here with my deck out, it probably would have been really, really weird. So yeah, it was great.
Huh.
Great stuff. I'll never live that down, so that's good. You know, have that one, and that'll come out in the divorce proceedings. He doesn't get custody. He pisses on the rug in the middle of the night. Yeah. So I just thought I'd share that because, you know, my prior humiliation wasn't enough. I'm an open book. Just want to let the audience know what a degenerate loser I am. And not to invite me to sleep over in their homes.
Like we've never talked about shitting our pants in this podcast.
Yeah, that's probably more embarrassing. I had very little control over this.
Yeah, at least you're like, when you shit your pants, you're usually like awake.
Yeah, that's true.
You're aware that
if I start sleepwalking and shitting in my pants, then things have escalated to a whole new level. So
yeah. And then you're really wondering what you're doing with the dog.
Well, yeah, that's what my wife said. She's like, I'm so glad I woke up. And like when I heard something, because like I would have just gotten up in the morning and just like beat the crap out of the dog, assuming the dog. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, and I want to remembered clearly. So it's freaking ridiculous. I was told that if she awakes some night and I'm standing on the bedside like pissing on her, that's the last straw. So I have to watch myself there. So.
Then
apparently that's she can't cross that hurdle, even though like she had me crawl over her after an explosive bout of like the flu one time where I just exploded myself in that same bed next to her. So apparently just dragging diarrhea across her is fine. Piss in the middle of the night, no, we're done.
That's a different thing. Yeah.
But I get it. Everybody's got their limit. So.
No, but what do you do if you like if you're not in control of it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty wild. So I think the lesson is just make sure you get consistent good sleep. So because it has to be like sleep deprivation, like because I was coming out of the 4th weekend. I'd been coming out of like a lot of camping, so it's like many nights of like a poor sleep.
Yeah. Or just different type of like, right. That's, I mean, I think we've all pissed in the closet on alcohol. So like,
wait, what?
Yeah. It can happen.
Yeah, definitely. So stupid. Well, what else? What is your time at Sandrock? What is this?
Oh, this is a kind of farming game, life simulation game. Oh. Amanda played the previous one. I think it was called My Time in Portia or Portia. I'm not sure how do you say it. And she played through that, beat it. Then the second one came out as more of a desert one.
Okay.
And she got it for Christmas. Never opened it. Until it came out on Game Pass. So I'm like, oh great, now we're gonna play it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then I had the bright idea that she could still play on the disc, and then I could play on the PC through Game Pass.
Then you can play together.
Then you can play together. So, because like Game Pass allows you to do couch co-op together, but not like online cross-platform with only one account.
Okay.
So that's why we needed the physical copy in one, so it counts as one person actually owning it, and the other person just playing on Game Pass.
Cross-platform, but you could do it. You could do it between 2 Xboxes if you had them.
I don't think so. I don't know.
Yeah, my son and I, like Grounded, Halo, all that.
And you only have the one Game Pass?
Yep.
Okay.
You have to do you have to have the profile on both consoles, and one of them has to be like the main, and the other one. There's a way to do it, but yeah, you can totally do it.
Okay. Huh. I was coming up short between that and the PC, so maybe that's a different story.
Yeah, it could be the fact that 2 different device types. So.
Uh-huh.
And how is the game?
It's good. We've been playing it quite a bit. Most nights we're putting some time into it. it really is like one of the things where it's just gather materials, build it up, and then you end up getting the next loop of newer materials to build up different stuff. The twist is you're building. It's more of a city builder, so you're building all these different upgrades and places in the city. So
Oh, okay.
that offer to do different things.
So it's not
So that
like a restrictive farm simulator thing, like you get into Grand Theft.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Actually, there's like very little farming. I mean, you could do farming, but we don't really do much. It's more like scavenging for resources. There's combat dungeons and stuff like that. Um, so there's a lot of that. Yeah, and it's mostly just gathering resources to build the next thing and see what that does.
Nice. Well, I know that you guys like that style of game, so it sounds like it's right up
Yep.
your alley. And this is a
Yeah.
newer one, or it's been around a while?
I think it came out late last year, maybe.
Okay.
Yep. It's weird that there's like there's an online version and the regular one. So like they didn't integrate the online into
Really?
the same
That's
same
bizarre.
like program. It's weird, yeah.
Yeah. That's an odd choice. You think it would split your fan base too?
Uh-huh.
Well, it's interesting that you're speaking of Game Pass, because I'm sure you saw that news where inevitably they announced like price hikes and new tiers for Game Pass. So it sounds like Game Pass Ultimate is going up $4 a month, and that will still include all your day ones. There will be a new tier at the old price point of 15. Well, I guess it's $16.99. So it'll be
something like that, yeah.
14 or $15.99 for the new tier. That will be some games with Game Pass, but not day one stuff. And then they're eliminating the PC only Game Pass altogether, which, okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
Not too surprising, I guess. But I kind of wonder why they didn't push more of this reorganization when they kind of eliminated the tiers of like the original Xbox Live and stuff a year ago. I mean, they didn't have to do the price hike then, but they could have like had that all in line. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, the growth must not be there that they thought it was going to be. I think like it must have plateaued the number of users.
Yeah, and I think I was reading something where like of Game Pass users, 74% of the user base is Game Pass Ultimate, so they'll be getting a good chunk of change from the majority of their people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to drop off. It's still, even at $20 a month, it's still a great deal, but
yeah, it's still, if you bought 2 brand new games a year, it's,
yep.
I mean, well, that's not true. It'd be 4, I guess, at this point. Well,
4, yeah.
No, I mean, maybe not even, because like some games now are launching with like day one, like all inclusive editions that are like 90, and that's not even like the cool bonus collector shit anymore. It's just like, what was that? I mean, didn't that Skull and Bones thing come out with like 4 price points? And like the top one was like $90, and all it was like just digital shit. I mean,
for a game that's been in development for 10 years and to have the balls to be like that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I saw quite a bit of backlash about it, but it's like, I don't know, with other acquisitions too, and then the fact that they are like pushing all the Activision and everything, like the Call of Duties, like with all of that stuff, presumably not getting all canceled. We'll have to see because it's Microsoft, but the value to me is still there.
Right.
I just can't
especially with their showcase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're in trouble. I think Game Pass is the best thing they have going, and clearly it's not scaling up exactly like they thought. Otherwise the price point wouldn't have had to jump, I would assume, but
yeah. So what I'm most surprised about Xbox lately is, they've done the whole, like, I think we talked about this, the Amazon Fire Stick has it now.
Yep.
But they're really pushing that.
There's a Prime bundle for it.
Right. Like I figured that they would, make apps for that and be like, oh, this is a nice secondary option. But to like really push it and be like, yeah, why don't you get out of the console space? it's kind of an interesting tactic that they're doing, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. It is kind of wild how much they focused on that. I think it makes sense because their cloud stuff does work remarkably well. I mean, you're not going to be playing your Fortnites and stuff on there. That's not going to be
No.
fun. But like, if you're just a casual person, especially because like, well, and think about it from their perspective. If you're going to try and get like the casual market in on something cheap, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate's a pretty good subscription that you signed up for, forgot you had, and continued to pay for. You know what I mean?
Oh, right. Yeah.
So, yeah, but to me, it's like the appeal is almost, you would think, for people who are already in the ecosystem. Like, I wouldn't mind getting one for like vacations and travel and like going over to somebody's house if they don't have a console. But I also just
Yep.
don't need to do that. It is weird their dedication to that though.
Yeah, that's the part. They must have some sort of math on it where they're like, well, there's not that much crossover, or the people that bought the consoles already have them, so you might as well just push this other option more and market that. I don't know.
I'm sure they're seeing the writing on the wall too, with like PC gaming like actually kind of coming back to the forefront, because
Yeah,
I would argue outside of Switch, PC is probably the second most. I mean, you can make console sales wise whatever, but like globally, PC has to be number 2 behind Switch, right? Like gamers, or maybe even number
yeah,
one,
if not
depending
number
on.
one. Yeah,
So it's like, yeah, if you can get all your shit onto PC, then yeah, do they need a console? And I think the answer is no, especially
yeah.
since they've neutered the X to the extent that they have by keeping the S standard. So I don't know. I'm so curious to see what they do with the next gen, because it's not looking great.
No.
I mean, I feel like this is the position that Sega left the industry in, right? Like, you had your bomb, which the Xbox One found its footing eventually, but I would say the series line of consoles are kind of occupying the space that maybe like the Saturn and Dreamcast did, where it's like, yeah, there's a fan base, but they're not at the forefront of people's minds. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too harsh, but it seems like they're headed towards a hardware is not our future, which is weird to think about though too, now that they own so much of the industry as far as development goes.
To like all of a sudden switch gears like that.
But I think they could be then just a third party like powerhouse, right? They don't need the.
Oh yeah, I mean, they already owned. Yeah, they now own 2 of the biggest third party ones already that were. So, yeah, they could. Yeah, I don't know. Everything is so weird.
I know Redbox is gone now. Like, what's the world coming to?
Yeah. Yeah. Did you see? Do you know who owns Redbox? Did you see this?
I read. I can't remember what the name was. It was like some company that shouldn't own that. I know that much.
Chicken Soup for the Soul
That's
Entertainment.
Yes. And I also didn't realize that Crackle was under their umbrella too. So we're losing Crackle and Redbox.
Yeah.
Crackle sucked though. But where are you going to get Joe Dirte 2 now? There's a Crackle exclusive.
That's right.
I really low key want to get a Redbox machine. That's my new goal now, is to like, if I could open my garage and just have like a Redbox machine, that would be amazing.
I was looking into that too. Like, it's got to be. Yeah, I bet it's pretty like server side though. Like, as it needs to be connected to something, otherwise it's not going to be functional. I bet.
But somebody's going to throw something online and hack that. Like,
yeah,
someone will have a way to sideload that. But I wonder what they're going to do with those, because it's not like they can afford to. I mean, if you're going through that level of bankruptcy, I mean, they're not in chapter 11 anymore. They're like straight up, like, it was chapter 7 now. So it's like, you're not
like next week they're shutting them down.
Right. It's like, you're not really going to be able to pay to store them, pay to move them. So it's like, what is their plan?
Yeah. just rot there.
I mean, kind of, right?
Yeah.
I kind of just want to go and like rent a bunch of movies and just not return them at this point because like they don't have anybody to bill me any of their fucking end anyway. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I
No,
think when Redbox launched, everyone was like, "Oh, this is destined to fail at some point." But I mean, they have made it 20 some years, so
Oh yeah.
I mean, they outlasted everybody else that was like brick and mortar, so they
I haven't
probably
seen anybody at one in a long time though. You used to like you'd go someplace and you'd have to be in a line almost. And
Yep.
yeah, I don't see anybody.
Yeah, that's true. You'd be in a queue forever. I check them like every once in a while. I want to when I walk by, but I never check the rent. I always go right to buy because like sometimes the stuff's so cheap to buy that it's like less than a rental.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, if I can get like this Blu-ray for $3, of course I'm gonna just get it. So yeah, I'm bummed to see it go. It makes total sense though. I mean, in a world where you walk into stores and there's barely any physical media of any kind to speak of course Redbox is gonna have an eventual end like this.
Yeah. Yep. Just get one and hook it up to a Plex server, and it's basically a remote control. You just click whatever you want to watch, and it loads it up.
It'd be sweet. I want to do fun. One. You know, here's a business idea. Hear me out. We get 3 of them, and then we have a key card system, and we only put porn in there. So it's like the world's like only all digital self-serve porn store for creepos who don't know that they can just get that for free. And we'll have like each of the 3 machines can be like its own category. Like one's like anal, one's just like midget porn. You know what I mean? Like we'll just do it's all right there, neatly organized and alphabetized.
And we'll call them red boxes because that would be a good name for something like that.
Right. It already sells itself. Yeah, then we just need to figure out like the keyless entry system, and people will just buy the like cards from us for a one-time fee of like, I don't know, $100. Perverts will pay that, right? So
yeah. 200 if we don't share their data.
We won't email this to your wife if you pay us the premium. Yeah, just like extort them every 6 months. Like, hey, Google picture of their house. Yeah. I am curious. I am in all seriousness though. I am super curious to see if I can somehow get my hands on one of those machines and do anything with it. But we'll see. Yeah. I have a feeling, based on how they look, they probably weigh about a fucking ton. So
yeah,
I'm guessing it's probably not viable, but we'll see.
No, it would be fun to like crack one open and see how it works.
Yeah, for sure. And then figure out how to get it working without their back end, and getting past the pay screen and card reader would be interesting too. But
yeah,
I'm sure there's a way around it.
That's all wires. It's fine. Just jumper
them. Well, I haven't really been playing anything. I picked up that Luigi's Mansion 2 HD though, and my son really likes playing those games, and I kind of just get a kick out of watching them more than anything, because the gameplay loop in those games has never really done much for me. So we've been working our way through that. I'd say he's halfway through the story at this point. Probably he's got a few of the locations unlocked. I think there's like 6 in total or something. But yeah, kind of neat. I mean, I don't know if they put that much work into it to really make it like, ooh, wow. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it looks good compared to the 3DS, but you know, it doesn't have that graininess, obviously, that you got with the 3DS a little bit. But it's not like a full-fledged effort to like pretty that thing up, I don't think. It's just kind of like adequate, I'd say. Is how it plays off. It is interesting though to be it is interesting though to be playing a Switch game where you're constantly referencing an in-game like DS peripheral. It's like, this is weird.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah. That's the only one that I've beaten. I enjoyed that one. And I think that was a pretty good use of the 3D
Yeah.
on the 3DS. So obviously you lose that in this too, but yeah, I mean all of those that it's like, oh, we're taking a 3DS game and up-resing it. It's like, well, I don't know, can't be that much effort put into them. I don't.
Yeah, and I'm still pissed that this isn't like we talked about the other time too. It's like I'm still pissed this isn't like 1 and 2. You know what I mean? Like, why didn't they Pikmin it? Doesn't make much sense. It's I do agree though. I think it is I think it's the best in the series. I think 3 was just too bloated for its own good. I think 2 strikes a better balance, and 1 was a little too simple.
Yeah, 2 is the better like core system, right?
Yeah, that's true. But it is amazing like how far in between releases were on all 3 of those games, really. I mean, you go from GameCube to the 3DS to like, I don't know, it was like 3 years into the Switch was, because it was, I feel like it was a deeper cut. Maybe I'm trying to remember. It was at least 2019, so 2 years for sure.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, and at least one of them was on the year of Luigi.
That's right. It's the year of Gooigi now. Yeah. So we'll see if we get through that. We're just carving blocks out. It's mostly when we get a little bit of downtime and he doesn't have friends to play Fortnite with. So
yeah, I did see my my world championship thing shipped. I haven't gotten yet, but
oh shit, is that out? I ordered that too. Wonder where mine's at. Did that come out today?
I don't know if it came out last weekend or what.
I need to look. I think
I just remembered I got charged from GameStop. I'm like, what did I buy at GameStop? What would I have bought at GameStop? And it was.
I definitely ordered that, and I haven't gotten a shipping confirmation. Huh. Well, I don't think it's gonna be one of those things that's like in short supply, so I should be able to hopefully scramble and get one if I need to.
I'm not sure if the hard part is like, do you open it? I don't know. Like it's such a simple game that I'm like, I don't know if I'll really get into it.
The thing is like,
I don't know if I want to open it.
I don't think it's going to be a rare collector's item either, but
probably not.
I don't know. I think it looks kind of fun, so I kind of want to play it, but yeah, we'll see. Realistically, I've got like 40 other shrink wrap games that I should probably get to first, but
yeah,
that one is at least a cool collector's bundle. But now I'm gonna have to make sure I actually have on order because I'm worried.
Don't know where it's at.
But I did get it from Best Buy, so if the release date is not already, they probably haven't even because Best Buy is bad. They don't ship it until like the day. Let me see.
Oh yeah.
NES
World Championship something. Yeah, it should be I'm interested to see how like that goes. Like that, I think that's a barometer on like if I think they're putting that out to see like, is the NES still a thing, or are we like in old man times and we can ditch that now?
Hey, I mean, they're still putting out updates to the Atari 50 collection, so
yeah.
Which
true.
Did you see that's getting like a whole new re-release? It's like they're re-releasing the game with extra stuff. It's like, well, you gave us all the other stuff for free. Like, why is there now a cutoff? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, why not only pay for the DLC?
For that type of game, I expect finality anyway. Where it's like you made like basically a documentary showcasing everything up to it. Like have it up to it then.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's interesting. I will probably have to buy that because I really appreciate that collection a lot, but I don't even know if I've gotten the latest update. And it's going to be on the VCS, so we can both get it on the proper console, which I'm I still have hooked up for some fucking reason I can't understand. So I need to get that out of my game room because I ain't touching it. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Huh. Well, I went to an arcade.
Oh,
Yeah, my hometown arcade. We're talking about a town that I grew up, went to high school in. Maybe 300 people in this town. And in the old hardware store, they've kind of like done some work and like made suites out of it, which somebody packed full of arcade games and is periodically opening it up for the public to, for free play.
really?
And well, it's
You
$10 a
pay?
person, but
Sure.
yeah, but it's free play all night. And it was surprisingly packed. I mean, it's a small area. They probably had 50 people in there, maybe. So
Wow.
it's
50
it's
times
kind of
10
surprising how many.
isn't bad for a town like that.
Right. Yeah. And then, I mean, he's only doing it like once a month or so, maybe twice. So,
Probably pays for his
like, if
rent
you were open
though.
all the time, oh, yeah. If you were open all the time, I think it would kind of lose its luster and nobody would go. Being only open so little, like, I think really draws people in as an event.
So what's the selection of games like?
So I talked to the guy for a while. He's an older guy. He's like in his probably 60s.
Dang.
He's like, I got one arcade game machine and I fixed it up. And he's like, wow, that was fun. So then he's just been getting machines over and over. And you can tell like it's not a selection of games that somebody would be like, I'm gonna open an arcade. These are the mainstays you need.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like here's this collection of games that I've run across in the last 4 years, and I've packed them in this thing. And it's a lot of racing stuff, which makes sense because that stuff nobody
It's easier
wants
to
because they're so
find.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's 2 Daytonas, a pair of Suzuki bikes.
Those are fun though, dude.
They are. There was 3 cruising games, I think. What was the Arctic Thunder, the snowmobile one? That one's cool.
That's a very good one, yeah.
There's a couple other racing games. ATV Tracks, I think it was called.
Okay.
Those things are crazy because they're like some crazy hydraulics on it. They just throw you all over the place. I'm surprised that they don't give you like a seatbelt like some of the modern ones do. But that one was fun. But yeah, a lot of racing stuff, and that was like, okay, this is the stuff that nobody was going after, and you got it cheap, probably, right?
So did he have any of like the traditional style, like any beat 'em ups or Mortal Kombat or any of that?
He did have an original Mortal Kombat.
Okay.
And then some old stuff like a Centipede and Asteroids and
Sure.
Galaga, stuff like that, which is pretty awesome. A few Big Buck Hunters and Time Crisis and gun games like that. No shooters though. That was surprising. I mean, Galaga, I guess, but
Anything
I
like
was surprised.
truly rare or standout or just kind of generic?
Probably the rarest thing in there was like a Sega baseball game, which
Okay.
was like surprisingly, I don't know how it even monetized because it kept letting you play over. Like there was no credits toward innings or anything. I'm not sure how it even worked. Maybe there's a dip switch that switches the whole programming, front facing programming. I don't know. There was a magic sword, which you don't see that too often.
Mm-hmm.
So that one was cool. What else? Nothing nothing truly rare, I would say, but
It's pretty cool
he's
though.
got it full already.
Does he sell like beverages or anything, or is it just like?
Yeah, there's two sides of it. So the other side is like tables, and they rent it out for parties and stuff too. So you could, you know, do that. And yeah, they have pizza ovens and drinks and stuff like that too. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Um, Surprising it's in such a small, you know, small dinky town,
Right.
and still have the people there that make it worthwhile to do. And I was talking to him because he does his own repair, and I need one that needs a capacitor kit, I think, done on my monitor. Um, but he was talking about how, like, in the winter they don't have anything going on, so they hook up the trailer and they like drive around the Chicago area looking for arcade games. It's like, wow, that's cool.
That's
Um,
commitment.
yeah, I told him he needs to check out Galloping Ghost. He had never heard of it. I'm like, oh man, you need
What?
to. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's pretty cool though. Hopefully he just keeps building it up, and then how do you know like when he's open for like free play hours and stuff?
Facebook. He sets up events on his page,
Gotcha. What's it
but
called?
Grandpa's Arcade.
I like it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try
but
that.
it's definitely in that same situation of like what Galloping Ghosts seems like, where it's like they started in this little dinky thing and then they just kept knocking down walls to the next thing. I could see them doing that if they were
Yeah,
able to.
you'd be crawling over cabinets like you do back there. Like,
Yeah.
which it's kind of funny that Galloping Ghost is even allowed to do that because like that can't be ADA compliant at all. Like not
Oh
even
no.
remotely.
No.
Uh,
Yeah, that is surprising. Like there's like how there's so much of that where you could just get hurt yourself as a fully mobile person in Galloping Ghosts. I felt like.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there was, yeah, you literally have to climb over stuff in certain cases to get through to the next thing.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. Well, that's cool, though. Hopefully, he has
Yeah.
some new finds then for you by next spring if he's going to be hunting for more. And
Well, that's what I'm hoping too. The bummer part is like I'm wondering how many people like check it out the first time because it's rather new. How many people come back the next time,
sure.
Because even me, like I'm into that type of stuff, but once you play a couple of racing games, you've got you've got the fill racing games.
Right.
They're pretty much all the same.
Yeah, that's true. If you don't have like a good depth of mix of different types of games, yeah, that's because
Yeah.
it's not like a racing game is one. Well, I mean, there are people obviously, but most people aren't like, I'm going to master this thing. You know what I mean? I guess I was
Right.
kind of that way with the original cruising game, but after that, I don't know
Well,
that
that's
there's
because
too
you
many
got the free
reasons.
games and I mean, if you
Yeah,
got first, you got to keep going, right? That was
yeah,
the main thing with that one.
that was the crack.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I'll have to keep an eye on that and maybe check that out sometime because that would be like what, like an hour and 15 for me maybe to get there from here.
Yeah, probably something like that. Yeah.
That's not so bad.
I mean, it's a small area. I mean, it's not going to blow you away, but for a few hours, it's fun.
Yeah, for sure. Well, something that blew me away as a kid and didn't blow me away as much rewatching it. I went on Tubi, as we've been doing lately, and looked for something to throw on the other night and saw the original Teen Wolf with Michael J. Fox. I threw that on, and I don't know, that movie as a kid seemed way cooler than it does when you revisit it as an adult. And it's just kind of like, this is every high school movie story plot, but just with like the weird twist of like a kid who can turn into a werewolf. Which, can we talk about how that movie doesn't work? Because he turns into a werewolf in front of like people and nobody
All the
freaks
time.
out.
Yeah.
Nobody thinks it's weird. The FBI isn't knocking on his door. And they just kind of like accept it and go on with life like this is a normal thing that should be happening. Kind of ruins the whole movie, really, because that wouldn't work at all in any way, shape, or form in reality. But at the end of the day, though, it is just a bare bones high school kid like learning to deal with life and like gotta be true to yourself sort of thing, you know. And then like every 80s
Yeah, I wonder why
movie,
that one took off like it did then.
yeah, I suppose because Michael J. Fox was just so hot at the time too.
Yeah.
But you know, then of course like the nerdy girl neighbor who's like the one that always becomes the love interest at the end, and it's it's still good, but I think I have to downgrade it. I don't think it's like S or A tier like 80s flicks. It's just something that I think was maybe a better time and place movie.
Sure. Huh.
And I think that must have
Um
come out like right around the same time that the first Back to the Future did, right? Like they must have been the
yeah, I
same
was trying
year.
that's what I was just trying to think about it. Which one came first?
Because was he filming both of those, or was he filming the TV show and Back to the Future? I don't know, but yeah, they had to have been. I mean, he looks like the same age
Yeah.
he was in the first Back to the Future movie. It's funny too because like that whole movie is like centralized around basketball, and he's like super short, so it makes no sense at all because he's like half the size
Why
of everyone else on his team.
that's true. Yeah.
Nobody told him he should have played a different sport.
Huh. I don't know if we talked about this, but have you seen the the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie, the original one before the
Um,
show?
with Paul Rubin,
Yeah.
it's been a long time. I have, but yeah, I
That
don't
one
remember
reminded
much of
me a
it.
lot of Teen Wolf.
Okay.
Kind of like high school, same type of like, but then there's that stuff going on in the background. But it's so much like weirder.
I remember
Like,
it
yeah,
being
like you
really
said, Paul Rubens.
campy.
Yeah, Paul Rubens is like he gets killed, but he's like it's like a 3 minute like death scene where he's just like laying on the floor screaming about how he's dying. It's pretty great.
Yeah. It had the one guy from 90210, right? Like he was really popular back at the time too. I forget his name.
Yep. And
Yeah.
Ben Affleck for one scene that they dubbed over him because he was such a bad actor.
That tracks. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, you almost forget that that was a movie before it was a TV series because that series got so wildly popular.
Hmm.
I never got into that though. Like, I think it's pretty bad television to be honest. But what do I know?
Oh, I yeah, it got into a lot more of that like teen stuff.
It was C. Was it
Uh,
CW that did that? Was it like early CW?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
They kind of turn everything into like they have a tendency to like soapbox everything for some reason, which I
yeah.
don't get. I mean, they did it with Supernatural too, but yeah, I'll have to re. Is that on Tubi? Maybe I should rewatch that here.
Oh boy, I don't remember where I watched it. It was probably a half year ago now that I saw it. But when you said Teen Wolf, like that was the thing that went off in my head that reminded me so much of Teen Wolf.
I'm sure they drew inspiration. You know, everything's just a
Yep,
riff on something else these days. So
yep.
yeah. Well, have we gotten into the staff picks territory?
Let's do it.
All
I
right,
can talk about a movie
first.
that's kind of bad too. This is quintessential staff pick where it's uh one that I think is not a good movie. Like
But you should
if we
watch
went
it
on
anyway.
yeah, I went if you went on like Letterbox, it's probably not ranking very high. But it's a guilty pleasure of mine. And uh this is The Island by Michael Bay, which already Michael Bay gets a lot of shit on um for a lot of his stuff. And this one's no different. There's a lot of Michael Bay stuff in there. But yeah, The Island, it's kind of a post-apocalyptic world as it seems, and these people are living in kind of nirvana in this like very sterilized environment, and they're all like kind of just generic people who are all numbered, and they kind of just live there. They all have like weird code names, but every once in a while they have a lottery and somebody wins the lottery and they get to go to the island. So they say. And turns out everything's not as what it seems. The real world is still out there. And if you haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, there's a lot more to it than what it seems. It's a pretty good sci-fi premise, I think. It's been done before in some cases, but I think they did it pretty well in this. But also, you know, having like the weird dialogue that Michael Bay movies have, and obviously things blowing up all the time,
Naturally.
chases, yeah, stuff like that. It kind of loses steam at the end because it does turn into just a straight up action flick with no real nuance to it anymore. But the first half, I think, is pretty. You know, trying to figure out what actually is going on is interesting.
Yeah, I think I know I've seen this at some point. Like it just must not have been super memorable because like I'm getting like little glimpses of it, but like I could not tell you much about the film at this point. Like
Yeah, it was Obi-Wan and Scarlett Johansson.
yes, okay, yep, I have seen this. Yep, must have been really noteworthy because it's about all I
Nobody
got.
talks about it anymore. You know,
Yeah,
nobody really talks. There. I think Michael Bay has some decent. Have you seen Pain and Gain? The Rock and Mark Wahlberg. It's one of
yeah,
Mark Wahlberg's like only ones that I like because he actually plays an idiot and he like, you know, you're supposed to laugh at the people in there, I think. I don't know. It's one of those movies where you're not quite sure
those are always the best ones.
what
So they're
the
funny.
direction was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the island. I'll have to like maybe check this out. I'm curious. What did you find it streaming on?
I think we watched it on Paramount.
Okay. I still have that one. I haven't logged into that in like months. I should do that. After Picard wrapped up, I was kind of like, well, I don't need to come back to this. But my parents use
Yep.
my account to watch their soap opera every day, so I
Mm,
feel bad
yep.
canceling it. Interesting. And that must have been like what 2003, 2004, 5.
Yeah, it was early 2000s. The movie's set in 2019.
Oh, the future.
So, yeah, you know, they had flying cars and shit like that. So
Yeah.
that's always fun when you're like living, when you have a whole movie that was made in your lifetime, but also like predicting the future that you've now living in.
Yeah.
It's fun. That part's fun.
I think I like their future better than our current timeline.
Yeah.
We're on the bad
Uh,
timeline.
yeah. Yeah. 2019 sounds about right where it went wrong.
Okay, well, my staff pick, I'm gonna go with The Bear. A lot of people have been watching that show. Obviously, it's been pretty big on Hulu. I think there's 3 seasons. We just started getting into it though and binging it. We're up to the latest season, but yeah, it's a really good, very intense fucking show, and not like a show you want to watch if you want to chill. But yeah, I really like it. It's awesome. Follows a very dysfunctional family and up and coming chef trying to start a restaurant or save a restaurant. And I'm a big Maddie Matheson fan anyway, and I find it hilarious that he's the only chef on the show and he's Fack the janitor. So like essentially, that's a good character for him because he's just like a big loud fat idiot anyway. So you wouldn't peg him as the chef. Have you watched any of this at all?
No, everything that I've seen, like you said, is like not a good time to like sit down and relax and watch something. It seems
Yeah.
very aggressive and very like anxiety inducing kind of.
There's a episode that is one of the most intense episodes of any show I've ever watched, and it's in season 2, and it's like an hour and 25-minute holiday special that is just an exhaustive, like dysfunctional family, like it's so hard to watch. Like it builds the backstory of all those characters really well, but like holy shit, is that like a soul draining experience? But
Huh.
for the most part, it's a very well done show with really good characters. It's coming together. I'm curious to see how much further they go with it. Like I can't imagine this getting more than like another season or two because it's building in a very particular direction. Like I will say, it is good in that sense, in that they really put focus on like the narrative and like where it's going to go in each season. It seems like it's well planned out compared to like traditional TV. And they also use refuse new noise as like the recurring song in the background, which I think is awesome. Except they always like kill it before like the vocals come in and he starts screaming. There's one episode where it gets to that, but like so it's always like the build up of the intro of that song, and I always get like super amped, and then it'll like fade down and like conversation comes back
Oh
in.
man, that's
Yeah. So now like all week I just like randomly I'm like, well, I need to hear the whole song, so I'll just throw it on Spotify so I can hear it. But yeah, very cool look into the world of like high end eating and the dysfunction in kitchens. So and just a wild show in general. But highly recommend.
and you wouldn't like if somebody pitched that show, how do you like even pitch that to make it sound that exciting, or that
Right.
that dramatic,
Yeah. Yeah, I would say like fucking 3/4 of the show is just people like in each other's faces, like screaming, like to go fuck off and die pretty much at each other. It's pretty intense. Like, so this is gonna be the show, like food and a lot of like verbal assaults. Like, yep, that's it. That's the
Right.
show.
And I mean, but the stakes are so low already, it's like it's funny that you can be that invested in something where it's like, yeah, you're cheering for the protagonist and what his dreams are, but in the grand scale, like one guy's restaurant and the food that's happening right there, well, it's probably not that consequential in the,
Right.
in the
Right.
big.
That's very true.
So it's interesting that they can have such low stakes and still make it that engaging.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like the underlying, like they really did a good job of like building interesting characters that just happen to exist like in and around this restaurant. Like they did a very like all the characters have really good backstories that as you watch it, like it just builds well. So the restaurant kind of just ends up being like the loose string that like ties them together, which is cool.
Huh.
And yeah, it's funny too, but mostly it's just really intense. So be in the right mood for this show, I would say. I do really like it.
Huh.
But I suppose that puts us onto the weekend rental. And for anyone who's uninitiated, the weekend rental is a game we pick and we play for each episode. The system of choice this go around is the good old Nintendo Entertainment System. And we decided to play Mickey NEScapade. It's an early Capcom game. Kind of is it their first Disney related game? Many more to come on the NES.
I was wondering if it's maybe the first purple bordered.
Oh, yeah, that could be. It'd be close. Yeah, that iconic look of Capcom labels on the NES. I think you might be right. In the game, unsurprisingly, you play as Mickey Mouse. You can tell that this is early. I think this came out in '88, so it's like earlier Capcom stuff. The details and like the character art isn't what you're used to for Disney games when you think of like DuckTales, Rescue Rangers, all that stuff that came later when they really kind of honed their craft on the hardware. You are no doubt playing as Mickey Mouse, but he doesn't look quite right, and the graphical detail isn't great. What's interesting with this game is you control both Mickey and Minnie, and Minnie just kind of follows you around, but you're spread apart like a good inch or two on the screen, which becomes problematic in that this is a platforming game, So sometimes like you need to do precise jumping. Well, you have to account for the fact that Minnie is lagging behind you and making sure she's landing in the platform. You know, the introductory level, every level is a theme. Like like the first one's like the house or whatever. It's full of ladders. Well, it's completely possible to start up a ladder but not be lined upright so that Minnie doesn't follow you, and then you're screwed and you have to go back down. It's an interesting design choice, and one that I'm not sure they needed to make because it doesn't add anything to the game other than frustration.
Yeah, I think that was. It almost seems like that was part of the difficulty scale. It was like they made a game that was too easy with just Mickey. That they're like, oh, we need to make this a little bit harder because, the amount of enemies that they are, and Mickey has a pretty floaty jump, I would say
Yeah.
overall, and can clear a lot of stuff. And if it was just him, I think it would not be too difficult. It's always Minnie that's always getting in the way, or
Right.
falling, hitting a wave right behind you, or something along those lines where you're like, oh, okay, this is what's actually damaging me, and this it's kind of making me fail at this, is wherever Minnie is. That said, I did cheese one area where Minnie went up the ladder first and then came off, but I was still down below, so I jumped off the ladder. So both of us were on two different levels, but I could still throw my stars.
Sure.
So I was just shooting from Minnie, and whatever was up there couldn't hit her. So it was kind of a that was what the Nintendo counselor told me to do. He figured that trick
You
out.
called in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting game too, like in the sense of like the context of the character, because it's like obviously it's a platforming game, so you've got the jump mechanic, but then the very first power up you pick up is like just stars, and then you're playing as Mickey and Minnie, just like projectile shooting stars at like random enemies like cats and bugs, and like the only thing that like, which makes no sense, is like a concept, but then the only enemy that like loosely ties into Mickey's world is like the dancing brooms, which I assume were a nod to Fantasia, but I can't even be certain that that's the case. Um, so it's a weird play mechanic for the property, but then the other infuriating part is this game adopts a lot of early NES bullshit and takes a nod from like Milon's Secret Castle, where it's like the key to success is blindly spamming your shot of stars anywhere and everywhere on the screen, because you might like flip over a tile or hit a thing that
Yeah.
gives you life. Like it's all just, I hate that style of game. Like there were a lot of them back then, but it is a mechanic that has aged so poorly to just like exhaust everything to succeed. You know what I mean? I don't know.
uh and I thought you were going this way, but like when you first start this game, you start in the house, you go up one level, there's a couple snakes, no problem. You go in the next room, and there you start running, and all of a sudden the chandelier just falls down.
Yes, such bullshit.
Um, if if we hadn't played Turok already, I would say that might be one of the worst starts to a game I've played. But uh, to be like immediately like, yep, we got you, just like
Yeah, it's a big
that's
fuck
straight
you.
up Kaizo, like the hard Mario games where they just mess with you. That was that
Did you go into that
in my
bonus room where
emails.
you run across and there's a chest and you open it and like there's an enemy that just
Yeah.
comes out and just like destroys your ass like
Yep.
mercilessly? Yeah.
There was one where I opened a chest and they took Minnie away somewhere,
Oh,
and
really?
I'm like, I have no idea what that's about. So I'm like, I rewound it. I'm like, I'm not opening that chest. I'm not dealing with that.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that's about, but yeah, I mean, the bummer part about it is that Capcom usually has really good music, and I was kind of like
Yeah.
pretty let down by this music. It
It's
was
pretty
not great, but
generic.
yeah,
I think that's kind of like, I think that lack of polish is evident across this game as a whole. You know what I mean? The visuals are
Yeah.
lacking, the level design and concept of the gameplay is half-assed. Yeah, I don't know. And then you get to that second level, and that's kind of like where even more of the bullshit comes in because like you just have to like randomly shoot clouds to try and find some power
Yeah.
ups, and if you don't find the right one, especially the invincibility one, you're gonna have a real bad time. And then it's just chock full of island hopping on these little platforms, and Mini inevitably falls in one. I mean, because you're constantly getting hit with the onslaught of enemies. And the other thing I really don't like is there's no consistency to hit damage. Like some enemies, I would argue most will take like a bar of health, right? But you get to those bosses and some of the other random enemies, and like a hit from them is a third of your life bar. So
Yeah.
it's tough to gauge like what's the strategy. And usually the strategy comes down to spam shoot as much as I can. Hopefully I have enough health to get my 10 shots in before I'm dead. And that's not great for boss battles. You know what I mean? It's all about
Right.
preserving your health to get to the boss battle so that hopefully you can grind through, which
And
sucks.
it's got one of those like NES limits of how many bullets or stars you can be throwing on the screen. So
Yep.
there's no consistency on when, if you're going to be able to shoot when you want to either, you know?
Yeah, and the fact that your shots can clip off of boss shots and neutralize is really shitty because their shot still comes at you, but yours is like a wet fart. It just falls, you know? It's not good. And then the place where I always fall off of this game is that third stage, and the third stage is the woods, and you have to like constantly go through this area in the woods with two doors, and it essentially loops, so you can keep running the level, but like you got to find the only I've never beaten it, so I can't say, and I didn't look up a let's play, but it seems like you have to navigate going in the right door on the right number of passes to then progress, and like the background colors of the leaves and stuff changes so you know you're going in the right direction. But by my third palette swap, I was just so frustrated with trying to figure out what they wanted me to do next or the right combo. And to be honest, the gameplay is just not that fun. Like everything about this game is like it's adequate in the sense that it fundamentally is a video game that functions, but they didn't do anything to it to make it enjoyable. So at that point, I just kind of dropped off, and that's where I've always kind of dropped off on this game. It's just
Yeah.
half-assed.
Yeah. I would say it's probably above average for the year it came out.
Yeah.
Maybe. So I mean, still Super Mario was kicking its ass
Mm-hmm.
as far as feel and platforming and all that stuff. But it's still competent in what it's doing. And it does give variety. Like I was really worried that that first room or that first level was going to be the game where it was like it's almost like a single screen
Right.
type of one of those old type of games. So I was relieved that there's more to it than that. But yeah, my save got corrupted, so I wasn't able to get too far in this game. I can't imagine it's very long. It's probably get pretty short, but
Yeah, I'm kind of curious on how many stages. I wouldn't think more than half a dozen.
yeah. Yeah, I
Well,
just remember when I played Epic Mickey, there was a level where there's an NES cartridge of this game
oh
in the
really?
level. Yeah, and I popped. I'm like, yeah, that's cool.
That is cool. What a weird throwback.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what do you think you give this thing on the Byron Burn scale?
I can't burn it. I mean, there's a lot of rough edges to this thing, but I had fun in the spots that I was playing it, and worked well. There was, when you sand off some of the edges, I think it was a pretty decent game, especially for the year it came out. I can't give it a burn for the rough edges. I can't give it a buy for the core gameplay of it. So I got to go kind of really mediocre rent, which is disappointing for a Capcom game. But
Yeah,
how about you?
I would second that. I think you summarized that perfectly. It's not bad enough to be offensive. It's a little offensive on the Capcom library side of things, but yeah, it's not enjoyable enough to stand out in any way. It's an interesting game though, because it's like it's the baseline of what made Capcom so great on the NES, right? Like it's the start of what would come in those license tie-ins and like how good those games got. So um, even like a bad iteration or a bad start is, like you said, better than most NES games, like generic garbage. So
Yeah, it's crazy they didn't get another crack at this because I mean, will be I guess the Sega games, the Castle of Illusions, and all
Castle
those were
Illusion,
probably
yeah.
the Illusion games, which were really good
Yeah.
Mickey games. Um, yeah, I'm surprised Capcom didn't try and get another crack at it, but I guess they were releasing next to the movies and the cartoons and stuff like that. So
Yeah, once Disney Afternoon came in, they had more lucrative licenses. I'm sure that's kind of,
yeah,
and I'm sure a lot of it too depends on like what, it's Disney, what Disney's wanting to do. Like we want, I doubt Capcom was like pitching stuff to them. I'm sure Disney was like, make this a game.
Tailspin the game. Come on,
It's
do
great.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Make a turbo version.
Those Turbo Graphics games. Have you played those? Like the Tailspin and like the Darkwing?
I don't know if I played Tailspin, but I've played Darkwing Duck. Yeah,
Yeah.
not
Tailspin on the Genesis
not
is also not good.
yeah.
It's funny because like the NES got all the good Disney Afternoon games. Like a lot of the other ones for any other console were just hot trash. But I suppose the answer to that is Capcom, right? So
Yep, that's true.
well, I suppose that's another episode.
That is another episode. Why don't you reach out to us and say on a scale of regular Mickey to epic Mickey, where you would put this Mickey Mouse capade. And you can send that to weekendrentalpodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter. We stream occasionally, probably not next week.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you're following us on Twitch with vacations and stuff, we probably won't get back to Twitch until August.
Yeah,
So we're
probably
in a
not.
bit of hiatus there.
Yep. And the game's got to feel right too, like a good format for that type of streaming, which some of them aren't. But yeah, until next time, be kind, rewind.